Hey, welcome back to the Ex-Homeschoolers Club. I'm your host, Jacob Gooden, and today I'm so excited for my friend Emily to be joining me. Emily, we have known each other for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I've been trying to think about, as I'm having people on, like when we met or like a really like early memory I have of them. And one of the things that I know you and I bonded over really quickly was our love for One Direction. Um,
Oh,
back in like junior high and high school. Um, so yeah, I think we were in like a guitar class together, right?
yeah, actually that's the first time I remember like interacting with you, I think. 'Cause I remember Madison from before because we were closer in age, but yeah, the guitar class was the first one, and I remember you wore like red pants and a stripy shirt, and then all my friends were like, "Oh my gosh, it's like One Direction." And then we all started dressing like One Direction too.
It's funny because like I I was thinking about like I've been reminiscing about like homeschool days. It's so funny because like I I didn't listen to a lot of pop music. Like I listened to just a lot more like Christian music. And so the fact that I even like knew who One Direction was kind of amazing. I feel like the fact that any of the homeschoolers knew who One Direction was kind of amazing. Did your parents let you listen to a bunch of pop music or not? Not really.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, I think I'm pretty sure the first CD I ever bought was like Justin Bieber, like I think it was like My World 2.0 or something like that. But that was like my first kind of exposure to like boy bands and or not that he's a boy band, but yeah, there's that whole side of things, and they didn't really. I don't think they were too concerned about me listening to it or anything.
You see, you had cool parents. You know, they
Yeah,
were like,
overall, I think we were like kind of more anti like the Pokemon Harry Potter side of things, but then as far as like music went, not too much.
my parents didn't let me watch Harry Potter either. Or I didn't play with Pokemon cards. So it wasn't, yeah. And then I got to college and everyone was into, like into, not Pokemon, but into Harry Potter. And they're like, what house
Mm.
are you? And like all that stuff. And so I was like, okay, now I got to watch the movies and figure out what house I'm a part of and, you know,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. But have you since gone back and watched Harry Potter?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think as soon as I turned 18, I like read all the books and watched all the movies, and then like my sister was already into it. She was older, but yeah, we got really into Harry Potter after that.
And your sister was like, it was like, Emily, you'll enjoy this because I know you also like love like the fantasy stuff like I did too, of like
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia and
Oh yeah.
um
Oh my goodness.
Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your homeschool journey. Like, were you homeschooled all the way through?
Yes. Yeah, so my mom started kind of midway through with my brother and sister, but they were so much older than me that she was already doing that by the time I was born. And then, yeah, like K through 12, I was home, which was really cool.
And what did like a typical like day of homeschool look like?
Ooh. It was a lot of, well, my mom read out loud to me for a lot of things. So for like history or like a lot of different subjects, she would just read to me, and then we'd like answer questions and kind of work through those. And then with like English and math, it was mainly just workbooks. So I'd just go through, get however many pages I had to get done, finish for the day, and that was usually it. And like I think like a lot of homeschool kids, I'd be done pretty early, and then we just have time to like I go to the store with my mom. It was like we go to Kohl's and walk around and just things like that. Like yeah, there was
Yeah.
a lot of freedom in the second half of the day usually.
Yeah, no, I remember my mom reading us like storybooks and stuff when I was a kid of
Yeah.
just like, but like really cool. Like we did a whole year where we studied like the Revolutionary War and like early America and stuff, and so she would read us these like, they were like historical, you know, fiction novel type stuff. So it was like an adventure, you know, set with real people. Obviously, maybe not 100% historically accurate, um, but yeah, I remember like, and we would do it at night, so it would be like fun. Like my dad would be home, and we would all just like, we didn't watch TV, we just would read a book, which sounds really lame looking back at it, but it was actually really
Oh,
fun. It's so, and
yeah,
like
that's awesome.
we have so much fond memories of that. Um, one of the things in talking to so many people now is like I've realized like by the time we got to high school, I feel like a lot of us were a lot more self-sufficient with like our homework, where our parents just kind of like
Mhm.
handed us stuff and we're like, okay, go do it, and then just come like report back. Were your parents that way too?
Yeah, definitely. Like I don't feel like with my mom, I feel like she didn't necessarily like teach me things in the sense of like a regular classroom, but she would just give me the material, and like I think you said it on your first episode, but yeah, I'd just work through it and she'd look at it and she kept really good records and graded everything, and that was kind of all I really needed.
It's interesting too because like I wasn't homeschooled all the way through, and so so many people now that I'm talking to, I'm like they did the whole way. They did K through 12, my sister included. Like K through 12, that's all they ever knew. I like granted it was only for 2 years, but like I did understand the classroom setting, and so like to go from that to like at home was so weird. So now talking to all these people who kind of like did the at home thing for 12, 11, 12 to 13 years of their life and then maybe like went into a college setting, was that like a big shock for you where you were just like, oh my gosh, like now I'm in the classroom, it's like totally different, I'm being lectured to, like was that a shock or not really?
I'd say surprisingly not, because I think I was gearing up for it to be more of a big change than it ended up being. But I think just being in co-ops, like group solutions, and doing like writing class, like what we did, like I think that prepared me really well for just being in a regular classroom setting, and I ended up enjoying it a lot. And
Yeah, group solutions was dope because it was basically yeah the collective of like parents coming together and being like we're gonna teach classes and do classroom setting, which was super cool. And then yeah, shout out to Mrs. Yip's writing class because that's
yeah,
I feel like that's where we became better friends
definitely.
because our class was just hilarious. And you, me, Colin, and Ann and Lee were like you know the four musketeers of that class, and I think we raised quite a bit of hell for Mrs.
Yeah.
Yip. But when I talked to her, she's always like, "You guys were one of my favorite classes." So
Yeah, those were the best times. It's like, oh, and that was like what really got me into like just even what I ended up majoring into because I majored in English and like just the way that her classes kind of prepared me for that and just taught me to write correctly, it's like that, yeah, that was life-changing, honestly.
I see. I had a mom. My mom majored in English, and
Mm,
so she had kind of taught me some of that, like the creative writing aspects of it, and like whatever. But you know, it's funny because even though your mom is your teacher or your parents are your teachers, right? But like you also still have that like mentality of like when your mom tells you to do something, you're like. No, I'm not going to do that, right? It's still your mom telling you to do something, even if she is your
mm,
teacher. So going to a classroom like Mrs. Gibbs' classroom was like fantastic because, well, if Mrs. Yip is telling us this is how we do it, okay, maybe there's some weight behind it now. And
mm,
I don't know about for you, but for me, she helped me so much with like prepping essays to get into colleges,
yeah.
and even like job applications and stuff. Like she just helped me understand how to not write sentences that were just boring, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, the banned words. Those like stuck with me. Like yeah, all the sentence openers and stuff. That's yeah, they're so
Yeah,
helpful.
I still for the longest I kept it for most of college. I had the sentence openers and the banned words list on my
Oh
laptop,
my
and I
gosh.
would whenever I needed to write something, I would pull that up and stick it in the corner and be like, okay, like got to give them something different, and it helped a lot,
It really does, yeah.
So did you after you graduated, did you go straight into college or did you do community college for a while and then transition into a university or what did that look like?
Yeah, so I did. I started with community college at Ventura College. I did 1 year of that, and then I took a gap year because I just hadn't really fully decided what I wanted to do career-wise, and I just wanted to just work and kind of figure out what my next plan was. So I worked for a year, then I went back to VC for 2 years because I'd been kind of going slow with the classes and not doing like a full load. Then I graduated from that in 2020, which was interesting because I didn't really have an actual graduation or anything. And then from there, because it was still like just in the middle of COVID and like, all the schools weren't really like everyone was doing it online no matter what. So I just went to Channel Islands after that, and did that for 2 years and then graduated with my bachelor's. But yeah, that was all. It was interesting because that was all online at
Yeah.
Channel Islands. Like I never physically went on the campus for my entire time
Wow.
there. Yeah, which is weird. But I think that was another thing that homeschooling just kind of prepared me for because I was used to just, being given material, working through it, submitting it when I needed to, and it was,
Yeah.
not
No,
too
that's
different.
so wild. It's crazy because I graduated college in 2017, and
Mm,
so I still had a couple years before COVID really hit. And I took a few online classes, but not really, and mostly like very basic stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to hear like, yeah, you just like you didn't even set foot on and Channel Islands is not that far. Like, it's maybe what, an hour max, 45
like
minutes.
20 minutes probably. It's real
Oh yeah, from
close,
yeah
but
from Oxnard.
yeah,
I
it's
was coming
just
from Ojai, so it was a little bit, maybe double,
it's,
but yeah, like
mhm.
yeah. So that's funny. Did you even like did you walk in graduation or anything, or you just were like, hey,
No,
ship me my diploma?
yeah, that's kind of. I think by the time I was done, that was kind of my mindset. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't need to go like do just this one thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
there's a
Well,
lot.
and you had no attachment to it because you were like, I'd never set foot on
Yeah.
the college campus.
hmm And I had a few good friends too that kind of they'd come over from VC too, so it's like I still had relationships, and there's one girl that I would partner up with in all of our classes and stuff, and so it's like there were some people, but she didn't do the graduation either, so I was like, it's not really worth it.
Yeah, I feel you. I was since I moved for college, I was like, I'm already here. I might as well do it. But yeah, it was like a whole day of like, now I have a piece of paper. And I didn't even have a piece of paper because I still had to take summer classes. So so it got shipped to me. But yeah, it was special and I enjoyed it. But looking at my two graduations, I'm like, I think high school graduation was a little bit better. And
Yeah.
yeah, what's cool too is like, so we were talking about like Achieve and group solutions and like those being our homeschool groups. I think what was cool was the fact that like we did get to have a graduating class. Like I've met a couple homeschoolers now who the mom and dad hand them a piece of paper at the end of it, and maybe grandma and grandpa come over and they go have a nice dinner or something like that. But like we actually had like a physical graduation in a place, cap and gown, the
Yeah.
whole shebang. So
That really was like a great experience. And then with like I think eighth grade and at least for me, eighth grade and high school, we did that. And then there were all the like events with the other kids that were the same age. So we go like we did our Disneyland trip and took pictures and went on different like scavenger hunts and stuff.
yeah, it's cool that they made it try to be as close to a normal school experience as possible for a lot of
hmm
us, because
Yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, it's all a lot of us knew, but it wasn't. When now you talk to like a public school kid, you're like, what? You like you have a locker and
Yeah.
you have like periods and like what? Like it just doesn't like I don't know. It doesn't compute to me. Another thing that we like collectively became friends on was the fact that we were both like into swing dance,
Oh
and
yeah.
I feel like by the time you were kind of starting to come to the dances, because that was like junior high, I think, is when kids started to be allowed into like the dances and stuff. Um, was I teaching dance class at that point or not quite yet?
Yeah, you were the one that taught me pretty much, like you and Taylor, I think, were the ones that taught me everything I know currently. So yeah, I still remember like that first class at her house, and yeah, that was like that became one of my favorite things ever. Like I still love it. I don't get to do it anymore, pretty much. But yeah, I love swing dancing.
Yeah, it's hard to find. Like there's a couple groups out there that do it, but yeah, it's not popular by any
hmm
stretch of the imagination. I've been asking people too about like what are there any core memories that stick out about homeschooling, whether it's like it can be a super cringy moment or it's just something super memorable. Like I always tell people I'm like I did school at Disneyland. Like that was just a super
Yeah.
memorable moment for me. But did you have any moments like that where you're just like now you look back at it and you go, "Oh my gosh, like I would have never gotten to do that." Or, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that." From your homeschool journey.
I feel like just like the type of classes that I took, like at Group Solutions, because my radio theater class was probably one of my favorite ones ever, and it's just so weird to say that I took a radio theater class. And, like that was a pretty awesome one. We'd like go to a studio and record different plays together, and like that was pretty awesome. And then
That's
also
super cool. Was
also
that at Mountain Dog?
mime. Yeah, we did it at Mountain Dog.
Okay, very cool. Very
Yeah, that
cool. Like
was that was
I
a fun
don't
one.
I don't remember that class. So like did you guys like write scripts or you guys already had kind of written stuff and then you were just learning the the behind the scenes of like making a radio show?
I think we kind of did both because I know we did a Christmas Carol. That was one of the ones, and some other kind of like pre-written ones. But then we also got to write our own and submit them, and then they'd like decide whose we would record. So there's a little bit of both, which was cool because I liked having the writing component of it. Yeah, I think I
That's
did
super
that. I
cool.
may have done that the same year as guitar. I think possibly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And then you
yeah,
brought
that
up
was a fun
mime.
one.
I
Yeah.
was also a mime. I think I was before your time,
Mhm,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, how long did you do mime for?
2 years. Yeah, so I think it was like my last 2 years of high school, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, that was awesome, and that's like a funny one to talk about because I feel like it's just the weirdest sounding thing if you like didn't know what it was before. Like, oh yeah, I used to be a mime, and everyone's like, "What?" But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Like we would just go and perform skits, like the Promenade in Ventura, and the Rescue Mission, all these different places. That
It
was kind of
became
fun.
one of my like two truths and a lie. If you've ever played that game,
Oh, that's
where I would tell
that's
people like nobody believed it ever. They were like, "A mime? What the heck is he
awful.
talking about?" And then they get to know me and they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But yeah, have you ever had anybody? I got this for quite a while after I graduated. Was like, you meet somebody, you're chit chatting, whatever. School comes up, especially like those first couple years after you graduate high school. And I would say, oh yeah, I was homeschooled, and then someone would go, oh, that makes sense. And it's kind of that like demeaning thing, and you're just kind of like, dang it, I wasn't good at covering that up. Like, have you had that happen to you at all?
I actually don't think I really have, but I feel like it should have happened because I'm definitely on the quieter side and get awkward sometimes. So I feel like it shows. But yeah, I haven't had anyone specifically be like, oh yeah, you seem homeschool.
Sometimes being quiet is like the secret to getting away with
Mm,
it, though, because you're like,
mm,
it's just like you're just there, you're just cool, you're just chilling, that kind of a thing. Um, yeah, I was much more of the like loud and proud and in your face with it,
mm.
kind of thing. I started telling people I went to private school because
Um,
I thought it sounded better than being like, oh yeah, I was a weirdo homeschool kid. Uh,
I mean, it's not untrue. I think it was a private school
yeah.
technically, so.
So now that you've been a couple years removed from like being a homeschooler. We were talking about this before it's been 8 years for you, which is insane. It's been a decade for me. And like, now like you have your degree, like are you using your degree in your job and stuff now, or what are you doing career wise?
Yeah, I kind of am. So I work in a software company and I write contracts for them. And then I'm also like my technical role is a sales support specialist. So I kind of help the salespeople. And then when they need a contract for a client, I'll write the contract. So they were specifically looking for people with English degrees for that job, which I thought was interesting. But I think they just really wanted someone with a good grasp on writing and grammar and catching little mistakes and things. And so in that way, I use it, but it's not. I'm not like yeah, like I feel like everyone when I said I was an English major, they're like, "Oh, so you're gonna be a teacher, right?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to be a teacher." So it kind of, I don't know, it worked out with this. And yeah, I've been doing that. Like I got the job before I graduated college, and then I started right when I graduated. So I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
And is that like, I mean, obviously it's a job, but like, do you have any like dreams of like, oh, I want to do this, like I want to be a creative writer, or I want to like, is there anything like that you want to do, or you're just like, you know it's good, I
Yeah,
like it?
I mean, honestly, like I feel like I don't know if it's like weird to say this, but no, I just want to be a mom. I think
Yeah.
ultimately, like in the long term, I think I basically want to do what my mom did. It's like have kids, homeschool them all the way through, and just kind of be there for them, be a homemaker. I'm getting into all the like sourdough and kind of trad wife stuff lately, and I've really been enjoying that. So just kind of leaning into that more. I think I've never been like a huge career-minded person, I would say.
And hey, that's totally I mean, mom is a career within itself. It is like the toughest
Exactly,
job,
yeah. Hmm.
and that's super cool, and like I was, one of the things too that I have been asking people is like, if you do become a parent, and or you have homeschool parents approach you and ask you about like, oh, should we homeschool our kids, or we're thinking about it or anything like that, like, uh, is that something you're leaning towards, like with your kid, like you would be like, oh yeah, I want to homeschool them and all the way through, or maybe part of the way through, or have you put any thought into that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think at this point, we definitely want to homeschool them all the way through. Like, yeah, I want them to have as much as possible kind of the childhood that I did because I think it worked really well for me. And yeah, I definitely want to homeschool all the way through. And I'd say I have nothing but positive things to say about it just from my own experiences.
Yeah, that's super cool because like I like I think that I highly encourage parents to like just be involved in their kids' education. I think that's what made a lot of us like really good at what we do, right? And just like passionate about certain things was like we had parents who obviously cared about what we were learning. And so regardless of if your kid is public schooled, private schooled, homeschooled, like being involved in your kid's education is like I think is massive, and then supporting them with like whatever their interests are, right? Like whatever they want to
Yeah.
pursue creatively, or it goes a long way, and being there involved in your kid's life. And obviously not every parent has the luxury of being a stay-at-home parent, but like
Mhm.
it's okay if you can't be, you can still be heavily involved in your kid's life and be there for them. But because I remember like even it's funny because I feel like some of the homeschool dads I don't feel like were around a whole heck of a lot, but I remember seeing your dad quite a bit at stuff.
Oh. Yeah, he definitely he was my ride a lot of times, and I remember he'd come like on the last day at Group Solutions, and that was always like a big deal for me because I'm like, oh, he gets to see all my classes, and like we'd put up our boards and stuff, and he'd come look at them, and yeah, he
Yeah,
was very involved, even though it's like he worked full time, but he was when he could, he was always there, and that meant a
that's
lot.
good. Was he involved too in like the actual like day-to-day stuff? Like I mean, obviously he went to work, but like was he helping your mom like pick out curriculum and things along those lines, or he served more of like my dad in early years served as like he was the principal, but then my mom was
Mm.
like the one really running the show a lot of the times. But was he involved at all like with that kind of stuff?
I'm not sure actually, just as far as like the decision making on curriculum, how much of a role he played in that, but I'd say for the most part it was my mom, but obviously he supported, her decision to homeschool and was all for that. And he was another one he would read to me too, like at night when he'd be at home, and that was a really fun memory too. But yeah, I'd say mainly my mom, but my dad was definitely present for it all too.
Well, and you said it, so like you have two older siblings, um, and they were homeschooled part of the way through. And so did you ever feel like, you know, oh, they were lucky, like they got to go to public school for a while, or were they telling you like, no, 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 it's like so much better at home, like, yeah,
Yeah, it was more of that because I think the reason my mom started homeschooling was because I think I want to say they went from private school to homeschool. I could be wrong, but it became just so stressful. Like I know for my sister, she had like a teacher that was really mean, and just as a little, probably 8 or 9 year old girl, she was like, just so stressed out every day to the point of like being sick even, and like I think my mom saw that and was like, okay, like we're not doing this anymore, and then she pulled them both out and started homeschooling. But yeah, so I never really felt like, oh, I want that. Like, I wish I could have, had that experience because I always like, I think from probably the time I was 6, maybe, I was always part of a co-op or some kind of class where there was just that social element to it. So I never felt like, oh, I wish I could go to class and see my friends because like I still got to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean those came in so clutch, right? It was just like one
yeah.
of those things where it's like if we didn't have group solutions, and like I don't think my family did group solutions for like the first 2 years, and so it was like really stressful. It was really hard to like be at home all the time with just mom. And like I'm a little bit more of a homebody now. Like I'm an introvert, so I'm like that 50-50. I got a little bit of extrovert. I lean a little bit more towards the introverted side. Um so but when you're at home all the time, it's like you just kind of go stir crazy. COVID taught that for a lot of people. Was it was just like even just like the ability to just not go outside was like, oh my god. But yeah, things like group solutions came in so clutch because it was just like, okay, I have friends and I get to see them every 2 weeks, or I get to see them every
Hmm.
week, or things like skate day was like super important for
Oh,
a lot of
skate
us,
day.
and the
Hmm.
dances and like all those things. So I appreciate all of our parents giving us the opportunity to be in community because,
Hmm.
you know, I think that's the biggest one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to homeschool kids is like we don't have friends. It's your family and that's it.
Yeah, and I'd say that's definitely like wasn't the case at all growing up. It's like I always just had, some kind of community that we were a part of, and then with church too, of course. Like we had that side of it, and I always had friends coming over too, and like yeah, I think that made all the difference. And I'm hoping when I'm homeschooling my own kids too, that similar things will be in place. I'm not sure how Achieve is doing at this point or if it's still going, but um, yeah, just having something like that where, my kids could also have that community and things to look forward to and, fun events to be a part of.
Okay, I gotta ask: are there any super cringy stories that you can think of? That for me, I mean, the reason I brought up the One Direction thing was mostly because of the fact that like I did show up wearing bright red pants and like a striped T-shirt and like very much dressing like One Direction in the early days. And looking back at that, I'm like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. And I'm gonna try to find the picture and post it so people can see it because
Oh
it
my
is
gosh.
it's cringe. You look
So good.
normal in that photo. I
No,
look
no.
awful.
In that photo, yeah, but then in the subsequent photos from other weeks, I definitely wore suspenders at one point. Definitely that, like that kind of thing, though. I feel like the way I dressed, which is such a like typical homeschooler thing, that I did not care what people thought, and I think it showed for a while.
It's crazy too because like I don't know about you, but homeschooling also gave me like so many lifelong friends that I
Mm,
still talk to this day. And
yeah.
do you have anybody like that that you're still like pretty connected with, even if it's not on like a daily basis, but you still chat with them quite a bit?
Yeah, definitely. So Kira, I don't know if you remember her. She was
Yeah,
kind of younger, but she's my best friend. Like especially during COVID, like we started just calling each other every week. She lives in Ohio, so we're not even like in the same state, but yeah, we call every week and keep up with each other. And yeah, and I think we've known each other for over 10 years, I think at this point. And yeah, that's been a huge friendship for me. And then like Esther and Sarah, I don't know if you remember them too. Like
do
we still
yeah.
keep up. Like Esther was in my wedding and Kira was too. And so yeah, definitely those people. Ann and Lee, like she's awesome. And yeah, lots of good connections still.
That's good because yeah, I think that it's one of those things where you don't always realize like, oh, I'm making a lifelong friend, and then you
Hmm.
sit down and like it's been a decade, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm still friends with this person. And like and then also people who maybe you didn't think you would, maybe you weren't as good of friends with, they come back into your life and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, like now we're like best friends.
Yeah.
Which has been fun too to like reconnect with people and be like, oh my gosh, like we have so much more in common than we did back in the day, and like we can chat and we can share stories and find out what's going on in life, and it's just been fantastic. It's like one of those things that it keeps giving, right?
Yeah, it's so true.
I'm trying to think of other cringy stories or other just things
I
that we were
know.
involved in. I mean, it's funny. I think it was the year I graduated. Um, you, me, Colin, and Annalee went and did. We have a gigantic photo shoot that we did at the
Oh my
beach.
gosh.
It's super cringy. I'm gonna find more of those photos to
That
post.
still like it haunts my Facebook memories every year. It comes back up.
And I feel like you and Annalee definitely understood a little bit more about like photography and posing and things like that. Colin and I, we had no clue what the heck was going on.
We were
But it
just
is like
dragging you
the
along.
wildest group of photos. But like
It
I know
really
you were really big into photography. Are you still doing photography and stuff?
Sometimes, yeah, like I do a lot of like when we have like birthday parties for my nieces and nephews and stuff, I'll always like take all the family photos for that. And like every Christmas I'll do one with the whole family and I do a little bit of nature photography too. I've kind of not been doing that as much, but yeah, still sometimes.
Well, super cool. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me so much. I love catching up with everybody because it's just like it's so cool to see where everybody's lives have taken them, and like we're just like we're adults now, which is weird. I never,
Yeah.
when you're 12 years old, you're not thinking that, oh, someday I'm gonna still know these people when I'm in my mid 20s, but um but here we are.
Yeah, it really is crazy.
That's super cool.
But yeah,
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you
much for
again for
having me.
thanks for coming on once again. And if you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing, following, leaving a rating, comment, any of the good stuff. You know what to do. And Emily, this has been fantastic. And let's stay in touch much more than we have because it's been like I don't know 6-7 years at this point, and that is unacceptable.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, let's definitely stay in touch.
All right. Well, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.